Hey guys, welcome back to another video. I am actually really excited for today's video. We're going to be doing something that we actually never did in the past. If you're thinking about buying or selling, or not even buying or selling, if you just want to know knowledge about the residential real estate industry, we're going to be discussing terms that are frequently used and very often used in a transaction in the residential industry. So stay tuned. The first term that we're going to be discussing today is the attorney review period. Now, if you've never bought a home, the attorney review period gives the buyer and the seller the ability to make any changes to the original contract from a legal perspective. So if you want to change dates, terms, what's included in the sale, what's not included in the sale, this is your chance before the home goes into contract. So it doesn't go from an accepted offer to an under contract period. It goes from an accepted offer to attorney review. So like I said, the attorney review, your attorney as the buyer or the seller will go over the contract with you, and then once you agree to the terms, then you will go into contract. But before that, the attorney is going to write up the addendum or rider, which is something we're going to be discussing next, which basically gets signed by the buyer and the seller, and then you go into contract. Now let's go make a cup of coffee. So the next term we're going to be discussing is called an addendum. Just like we just said, before we come out of attorney review, the buyer and the seller sign off an addendum which gets attached to the contract and makes any changes to the original contract. So an addendum can apply to anything, not just at attorney review. Attorney review, there's an addendum that, like I said, gets signed by the buyer and the seller. But after a home inspection, if there's a pool addendum, addendum just means a legal document that has to get signed by both buyer and the seller. The next term we're going to be discussing is called contingency. So contingency means anything that's based on something else happening. So there can be many types of contingencies in a home sale. So for example, if somebody needs to sell a home in order to purchase this home, so when they put in an offer on this home, they have what's called a home sale contingency. That's one type of contingency. Then there's another type of contingency that's called a mortgage contingency. A mortgage contingency means that if I need to take out a mortgage in order to purchase this home, if I don't get a mortgage, then I can't purchase it. So that's called a mortgage contingency. Then there is an appraisal contingency, which is happening actually right now a lot in this crazy seller's market where people are putting in a lot of cash offers. So if a seller gets a cash offer and he gets another offer with a mortgage, then he might be more inclined to take the cash offer because then there is generally something called an appraisal contingency, which means if the home doesn't appraise for the value, which is actually something we're going to be discussing, then he is able to back out of the contract. So that is the term contingency, which means something that needs to happen in order to move forward. So the next term we're going to be discussing is the appraisal. We just mentioned earlier the appraisal contingency. What does the appraisal mean? So anytime a buyer takes out a mortgage, the bank that's lending him money orders an appraisal to make sure that the home comes in with the right value. Otherwise, if 2 years down the line, the buyer stops making monthly payments to the mortgage for whatever reason, the bank is going to end up putting the home into pre-foreclosure and then into foreclosure, which means that the bank is going to sell off the home for a loss because the home doesn't come in with the value. So that's why it's very important for the bank to make sure that the appraisal comes in with the value of the market, so there's no loss for the bank if the home needs to go into foreclosure. Hey guys, so the next term we're going to be discussing is called earnest money deposit. So anytime somebody sells a home, the seller wants to make sure that the buyer is a real buyer and not somebody just wasting the seller's time. So how does the seller verify that the buyer is real? By taking something called an earnest money deposit, and this is set up to protect both the buyer and the seller. So when somebody goes into attorney review, once they come out of attorney review and the home goes into contract, the buyer needs to put down an earnest money deposit. There's no real set amount. It could be $5,000, it could be 10, 20, whatever number that is, that's an indicator that the buyer is a serious buyer. The next and final term that we're going to be discussing today is pre-approval. And I'm almost sure that everybody heard the term pre-approval. I've mentioned it in my previous videos. And this is the term that is very frequently used in the real estate industry, especially in the residential industry. So what is a pre-approval? A pre-approval in simple terms is you as a buyer call up a mortgage broker. The mortgage broker collects your information, including income, credit score, assets if you have, expenses, all these things that are needed to buy a house, puts it into a system, into a program, and this program generates a number based on all this information to tell you what you are pre-approved for. That is a pre-approval. So there you guys have it. This is a little basic breakdown of some of the most common terms used in the residential real estate industry on a daily basis. So if you're a buyer or seller, now you have this extra information and it can help you in the buying or selling process. So if you guys want to see a part 2, because there's so many terms that if you don't deal with on a daily basis, you wouldn't know, comment below for a part 2 and we will make that. Until next time, make sure to subscribe, hit the notification bell, like, comment, all that good stuff, and we'll see you in the next one. Take care.